When an animator watches a kangaroo leap across the outback, they don't try to map the animal's exact skeletal structure onto a human rig. Instead, they study the rhythm, the weight transfer, the extension of the limbs, and reinterpret those dynamics into a plausible human performance. That creative translation process is incredibly powerful, but it's also notoriously manual, time-consuming, and heavily dependent on artistic intuition. The core problem in modern computer graphics is that we lack a robust computational bridge to automate that initial translation from wild, non-human video to editable human motion. Existing video-to-motion pipelines are fundamentally stuck in the human domain. Monocular motion capture methods rely on fixed topologies like SMPL or SMPLX, which completely break down when you feed them a video of a butterfly, a robot, or a four-legged animal. On the other hand, motion retargeting methods can handle different skeletons, but they require structured 3D source data and known topologies up front. Neither approach works for a single, unconstrained video of a non-human character. The research paper AnyAct, from a team at Peking University, Nankai University, and Pengcheng Laboratory, solves this by shifting the paradigm. Instead of trying to reconstruct the source character's full 3D structure, they focus on a key insight. Sparse local articulated motion cues preserve essential dynamics across massive structural differences. A jumping kangaroo and a human performing a similar leap share fundamental joint-level dynamics, even if their overall morphology is completely different. AnyAct formulates this as a conditional human motion generation problem, using transferable sparse 2D motion cues to drive a human motion diffusion model. Let's break down the architecture, because the training strategy here is where the real engineering happens. The pipeline starts with a versatile feature extractor, or VFE. Since you can't rely on a single pose estimator for animals, robots, and humans simultaneously, AnyAct uses a model-ensemble approach. It routes each input video through QN3, 5-9B, which decides whether to use ViTPose for animals, Sapiens for humanoids, or Co-Tracker 3 for out-of-domain tracking. The extractor decomposes every character into 5 local components, 4 limbs and a torso head segment, with at most 2 joints per component. Missing joints are handled via zero padding and valid masking. To remove scale and translation ambiguity inherent in monocular footage, the root is anchored to 0, and the remaining joints undergo global L2 normalization. The output is a standardized sequence of local sparse 2D joint trajectories. But here's the catch. You can't train a model on paired non-human video and human motion data. That dataset simply doesn't exist. So the authors devised a clever 3-part training strategy that relies exclusively on standard human motion capture data. First is augmented 3D to 2D projection. They take 3D human motion sequences, project them onto a 2D plane using randomly sampled virtual cameras with varying viewpoints, distances, and trajectories. Then, to bridge the domain gap between clean mocap data and noisy wild videos, they apply random symmetric limb scaling, global rotation, and Gaussian perturbation. This forces the model to learn robust 2D conditioning that mimics real-world extraction errors and morphological variations. Second is progressive 3D to 2D training. Conditioning on sparse 2D cues is inherently underconstrained, because multiple 3D poses can project to the same 2D observation. To solve this, they don't train the 2D branch from scratch. They first train a 3D local adapter, using normalized 3D joint sequences as conditions. Then they train a 2D local adapter, and align its output with the 3D branch using an L2 alignment loss. This effectively distills 3D-aware structural knowledge into the 2D branch, making the 2D control significantly more robust to depth ambiguity. Third is global local decoupled learning. Sparse motion cues naturally encode local joint dynamics, but strip away the global root trajectory, which is notoriously ill-posed to extract from a single video of a non-human character. If you force a single network to predict both local motion and global displacement, the features become entangled, degrading reenactment fidelity and killing editability. AnyAct explicitly splits these into 2 branches. The local adapter handles joint trajectories, while an auxiliary 3D global adapter models the root trajectory. To prevent redundancy, they introduce an orthogonality regularizer that minimizes the squared cosine similarity between the global and local condition features. This forces the branches to encode complementary information. During the 2D training phase, they freeze the 3D local adapter, optimize the 2D local adapter and global adapter jointly, and combine the motion loss, orthogonality regularizer, and the progressive alignment loss. At inference, they discard the auxiliary modules and run purely on the 2D local adapter. All of this conditions MoMask++, a masked diffusion model for human motion, which generates the final 3D human reenactment. The adapters are implemented as control net-like networks with 0 initialized output layers, trained for 30 epochs with a learning rate of 2 × 10⁻⁴. When evaluated on a custom benchmark of 160 real-world non-human videos, AnyAct consistently outperforms strong baselines like VLM-guided text-to-motion pipelines and video-based retargeting models like EchoMotion. The evaluation uses both VLM-based metrics measuring motion semantic consistency, rhythm consistency, posture adaptation, and human motion plausibility, alongside physical metrics like jitter and foot skating ratio. AnyAct achieves the highest scores in reenactment consistency, while maintaining kinematic plausibility. Ablation studies confirm that removing the progressive alignment loss, the orthogonality regularizer, or the multi-estimator VFE all lead to clear performance degradation, validating each architectural choice. The framework also supports downstream trajectory control and intuitive editing. Because the global root trajectory is decoupled, animators can easily scale vertical offsets for jump height or adjust limb angles for arm spread without corrupting the local motion dynamics. It even generalizes reasonably well to human reference videos, though it wasn't explicitly optimized for absolute human reconstruction. There are limitations, of course. The base diffusion model's training distribution means AnyAct struggles with motions far outside standard humanoid ranges, like frog-like swimming or rapid crab walking. In those cases, the point tracker co-tracker 3 can fail under high-frequency multi-leg motion or pixel-level similarity, introducing noise that degrades the final output. Additionally, while video diffusion models like Cedence 2 show promise for visual generation, naively adapting them for motion capture introduces artifacts that break downstream 3D reconstruction, highlighting why a dedicated motion-conditioned approach like AnyAct is necessary. Ultimately, AnyAct represents a significant step toward automating the creative translation process that animators have relied on for decades. By bypassing the need for source 3D topology and leveraging sparse local dynamics, it provides a practical, editable starting point for downstream animation pipelines. The methodology around progressive training, domain-augmented projection, and feature decoupling offers a reusable blueprint for cross-topology motion synthesis. If you're working at the intersection of computer vision, generative models, and character animation, this is a paper worth studying closely. Let me know in the comments how you think decoupled global local conditioning might scale to full-body character rigs, and I'll see you in the next one.